Hey everybody, welcome to Cinema Trip Reviews. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about Marvel's Werewolf by Night. Hey everybody, welcome back to Cinema Trip Reviews. I am Wyatt, and today I'm joined by Alex. As everybody knows, everybody should know you by now, man. You're on the show enough. Today we're going to be talking about Marvel's Werewolf by Night. Now, I'm sure a lot of people really don't know about this. How much do you know about this going into it?
Not a damn thing.
Not a
Nothing.
damn thing.
I just knew it was werewolves, which, by the way, am I the werewolf guy this October? This is
Yeah,
the second.
apparently. I was going to say, if anybody hasn't seen it yet, go watch our Dog Soldiers review, which we did 1 week ago now. But that was a really good review. It's doing pretty well. I'm glad everybody's enjoying it so far. But this wasn't on purpose though, like us doing
It
werewolf
just happened.
movies. This kind of happened. Nobody really knew about this Werewolf by Night project from Marvel and Disney until maybe like a month before. Like it was not even a month. I'm sure. It kind of snuck up on everybody.
I was looking into like the director and the actors, and they're all famous, but they're all famous for like the director was just like a composer for a million things.
Yeah.
And a lot of the actors were just like special effects people. And I'm just like, I wonder if like these people are like just hired by Marvel and they're like, hey, we got an idea. And they're like, oh yeah, go for it. I don't care, you know?
I mean, that would make sense.
Yeah, because
Go ahead, man.
nobody's famous in it. Nobody's famous in this movie.
Yeah.
Like that Marvel usually pulls down.
Yeah, like you said, the director, Michael Giacchino. I'm guessing that's how he pronounced his name. If it's not, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is mainly a composer. He's done a lot of Marvel stuff, but he's also done like huge other movies as well, like the Mission Impossible movies. There's a bunch of other huge movies that he was involved with. But it seems like he's done a lot of stuff for like AAA movies, big blockbuster type movies. So it was really cool to see like his feature length thing was kind of like a nice little Halloween special for the year for Marvel.
Even the guy who like the older gentleman who we'll get to, he's like he did special effects for like the old Star Wars, like Return of the Jedi
Really?
and stuff. So like he's like an acclaimed special effects artist, and I'm like, okay,
Oh wow.
all right.
But yeah, this movie, it does star Laura Donnelly as Elsa, and then you got Gail Garcia Bernal, and he plays like Jack Russell, or that's his name. He called Jack, but they don't give him his like last name, I guess. But Werewolf by Night, I didn't really know this just by going into doing some research. Apparently, this was based off a comic book that has been recently revived here in like 2020. Apparently, his first appearance was in Marvel Spotlight #2 in 1972. So it's a pretty old character.
Yeah.
But the second incarnation didn't come out until 2020, and it's been rolling since then. But apparently, there's just this whole like you're pretty big into comics, so you probably know a little bit more about this than I would, but there's like a whole like super team of like monsters and stuff within the Marvel universe that he's a part of. Apparently he has a long going feud with Moon Knight, which is another recent show for them. So maybe that's kind of a reason
I got
for
a
them
little Moon Knight vibes
introducing
from this too.
Yeah, so maybe that's kind of a reason they introduced him in here, is kind of put him in like season 2 of Moon Knight maybe. But also apparently he's worked as partners with Morbius on multiple occasions as well. So
Makes sense.
I don't know how much more they're going to do with Morbius since it kind of bombed. So I mean that's always a possibility as well. But this was Marvel Studios' first Halloween special so far. And what better way to do it than kind of draw inspiration from the old Universal Monsters classics like the Wolfman, Frankenstein,
Homage.
all those.
Yeah. This whole movie was a homage.
Yeah, and immediately upon that first trailer when they dropped, man, I was in from the start. I was like, all right, this is what I like seeing Marvel doing, kind of going out on a limb, taking some chances. It's not really that big of a risk because it's only like a 55-minute little short thing you just threw on Disney Plus. So that can kind of like maybe draw some interest, see how it seems like the perception is really well. Like people are really digging it so far. So maybe they'll kind of go out and do these sorts of things, maybe in like a movie sort of sense, or maybe like every year they'll do this kind of Halloween special, release something like this every year.
I hope, and I mean, I'm excited to do the review with you and obviously get more thoughts on your end, but you coming, I know you're not a huge Marvel fan, and I'm on the flip side of it where I am a huge Marvel fan. So I'm excited to get into it and see like how you felt being a Marvel movie and doing this, and is it, but we'll get into that once we get there. But I am excited to hear those thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Marvel at this point is just it's oversaturating the market pretty much every
Sure.
year. So it's like I'm at a point where I can't catch everything that comes out at this point, and I'm not even necessarily really interested in a lot of the stuff that they put out. So I just kind of been picking and choosing what I like. And the only drawback of that is, of course, because it is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there's going to be some stuff that maybe you're going to catch on just by watching these other stuff that's out there, the TV shows or the other movies. There's going to be some stuff that I don't understand. Even in a movie, like it's a character I know, there's going to be some stuff I don't understand because it's present in some other movie or TV show or something like that.
It's like, I mean, like you said, I read comics. It's like comics. Like I read comics sometimes, and it's like they'll have a little asterisk, like see page, blah blah blah, and I'm like, I'm not going to read that. Like,
Yeah.
no, no, thank you.
Yeah, but I mean, I was after seeing this trailer, I was very interested in this because I just love them kind of taking a chance and going out and do something, breaking that kind of Marvel formula that they already have in a sort of way. And I mean, I really enjoyed this, to be honest, right out the gate.
I did too.
But we can kind of get right into it, man. Pretty simple, basic premise for this. The Bloodstone family apparently had a bloodstone that they would go out and hunt and fight monsters with and destroy monsters across the land. And I guess the patriarch of the Bloodstone family has died, so they're having one big, huge funeral and is gathering hunters from all across the globe to pretty much have one final test. It's like one big hunt to determine who can hold the Bloodstone going forward. Because it was normally, I guess, it's supposed to pass down through family, but in this case, his daughter Elsa has been kind of distant from the family and kind of, I don't know what, like ran away. I guess they don't really dive into what she's been doing the whole time.
Now, like you said, it's pretty short, so I feel like we're gonna cap the story. But right away, this movie, even with the intro, like the Marvel intro, it really captures that old timey like feel of it, like long drawn out shots, these real deep blacks. Like the black and white looked fantastic, I thought. I thought even from the beginning, I was like, "Oh, this looks real good." Good.
No, yeah, it definitely does. I was a little worried because, of course, some of these like older black and white stuff they usually like to shoot on film or stuff. This was, of course, it's 2022. Digital. It's all digital. They just kind of threw a black and white filter over top of it. But they did add in like some of like the film grain.
Like, and they added like the little burns, like when they like flip scenes and stuff.
When you're supposed to switch the reels and everything. Yeah. And like you mentioned, the very beginning, like with the opening title card of like Werewolf by Night, it's that just awesome like just logo. It's like what you would see if you watch the Wolfman or Frankenstein. It's those type of old school Universal title cards.
You're way more into that than me. Like, and I like Universal Monsters, but I know that's your jam.
Yeah.
So I was a little worried. What really hooked me in the movie is you went over it when they're giving this hunt to the kids or to the other hunters, and they're doing the ventriloquist of the dummy the dead body, and the coffin opens up, and I was like, what is happening right now? That's when I was watching this movie with like bated breath. I was like, what is happening right now? This is awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I've been watching a lot of these movies usually in October, like early in the mornings. I usually watch like some of these old school horror movies. I've been watching like Frankenstein and Dracula recently. So to kind of go into this, it's like not really skipping a beat. I mean, of course there's going to be some film techniques and stuff now that's utilized in this that weren't utilized then, because back then it was pretty much like you're filming a play in sorts in certain scenes. It's just one huge stage. It's kind of filmed kind of back a little bit. It's kind of filmed like in how someone would do like a TV show a little bit in a way. It's very different from what it is how it's done now. And I didn't really know what to expect other than the trailer, because I thought they were going to do a lot of like the old school techniques, but no, they kind of stuck within their ways and what kind of works for them too, which in this it worked.
It did work,
because even though as much as I love the old school movies,
they're outdated.
They're outdated. To someone that's not used to them, they maybe seem kind of boring. They're kind of a chore to get through.
Slow, yep.
Exactly. And this one, I think they did a damn good job with the pacing. It flew by. I was locked in the whole time. It seemed like there was always something happening at any given time. You were always kind of kept on your toes. But I love the kind of just the aesthetic of it. Just when you open up with them explaining the whole story, and they had like different pictures like of the book kind of explaining the past and leading up to the funeral. And I love that transition from the book into like the full moon there on the night the funeral and everything. And you get like the main character Jack going down through like that elevator, and he goes out into like that walkway where it kind of reminded me of like the Mummy a little bit, the old school Mummy with like all the drawings and paintings like on the
On
stone
the
and
walls,
stuff.
yeah.
It doesn't really tell you who the werewolf is in the trailer, but you immediately kind of think it's this dude. Like as soon as because he's looking at like these paintings of like the werewolves, like the wolves getting killed and stuff, and he just seemed kind of uneasy.
To be honest, I didn't even watch the trailer. I had no idea going into
really?
this. Like, obviously I knew it was about a werewolf, but they actually got me, and I know we're getting into it, but when he says they have to go hunt the monster, in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's going to be the werewolf out there, you know? So, and they obviously throw a wrench in that later, but so yeah, I was real surprised. I didn't even get that because I didn't watch the trailer at all.
Oh, so you didn't know like anything going in? Okay.
I knew it was black and white, and I didn't even know it was 53 minutes long. I thought it was a whole movie. I thought it like I went into it last night expecting to watch half of it last night and then half of it tonight before we got on. And I was like, oh, this is only 53 minutes. I'll watch this whole thing. That's fine.
In the trailer, they even show you bits and pieces of Man-Thing, which is a pretty big monster like in the Marvel universe.
Which is coming up.
So I knew about that, but I just didn't know how he was going to play into the story. Because like you, I kind of assumed that the monster they were going to hunt was the werewolf as well. Until it presented itself, this was the actual monster they were hunting. I was like, okay, but how the hell does the werewolf
come
into
in
things now? But yeah, I just like a lot of the classic like homages to different, just like the Mummy and these old school things, without copying them in any sort of way as well.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty original. I mean, we're just gloating about this movie. We're not even out of the opening scene, and we're like just gloating about this movie.
Yeah,
I even love the character design. I thought the old guy and the guy who I'm gonna call him, he looks like Marilyn Manson to me. I was like, whoa, these guys' character design.
I was gonna say
awesome.
David Bowie. It was like a David Bowie,
David
like
Bowie,
Marilyn.
right,
yeah. I know exactly who you mean though.
Those two characters, I was like, ooh, they look great. Like those look like even black and white, I could tell. Like I was like, they look awesome how they are, you know.
Yeah.
So
it was like a very lived-in universe kind of already.
Yeah, dropping you in the middle, but I felt like I grasped it real quick, but just dropping you straight in and hit the ground running. Like not a lot of exposition, just going.
Yeah, and I think that was the only, maybe if I had a nitpick about it, was like you don't really know who these characters are. Like you don't really dive into these other hunters really. You're kind of stuck around with Elsa, the main lady who's kind of
the daughter,
yeah, like the patriarch, I guess. Well, not like Elsa, but I mean like the older lady that's kind of running everything, inviting everybody.
The matriarch, yeah,
her, and then of course Jack, who's the other main character. You don't really get to see some of the hunters. They have a couple little scenes, but you don't really dive into them that much at all. You really kind of stick with the main three characters.
Yeah, I do have a nitpick, but it doesn't come till later. Okay. We will nitpick this movie.
But between these hunters, they kind of go through it. There's like over 200 kills between like these 5 people, and it's like, oh, you have like 30 kills, you have 20 kills, and then it gets to like this skinny dude you've been following this whole time, and he's like, oh, he has over 100 kills, and he's like, well, he doesn't look like a warrior or whatever. And you're like, okay, that dude's the werewolf, or like that dude's a monster, like something's off about him, because he just seems kind of nervous and kind of like a little twitchy the whole time. Like he doesn't seem like he's supposed to be there. But yeah, just like you said, they have like that morbid, like animated body of the patriarch that I don't know if they just kind of went out and made that, or if they actually used his body and put animatronics in it.
I think they went and used his body and put animatronics in it.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I think it's on. I mean, that fits in with the theme. I think that's exactly what they did.
Yeah. You also get introduced to Elsa, who is the daughter of the guy that died. The lady that's kind of handling everything, she kind of pulls her aside, like, you're not welcome here. Like, you weren't invited. And she's like, well, it's my birthright. I'm supposed to be here. I have the chance to go and get the Bloodstone. And you can definitely tell the lady isn't happy about it at all. She's not happy about her leaving and kind of abandoning her family. She's not an Elsa fan at all. They take them out into where they're going to be having the hunt, which it looks really cool. It's like this huge like labyrinth of just mazes and different steps and platforms and everything. It looks really cool. And I like how like the introduction, how they're bringing them out like one at a time with just the dude with the huge flaming tuba that's walking around. They just blow that flaming tuba just every time one person goes in.
Yeah. I thought the set looked like, and not in a negative way at all, but, I don't know if you watch Squid Games, but that, like, set they're on in Squid Games, it looked like to me. Like, I thought it was gonna be like a hedge maze, but it wasn't, but kinda was a hedge maze.
Yeah, in a
Um,
way,
it
yeah.
was cool. It was a cool set. I thought a little bare. One of my nitpicks. I was like, okay.
I
Like,
think that
this is
more
fine.
fits with the theme of just being with like the old classic, like
Sure.
the monster stuff, because a lot of that there really isn't much detail in their sets back then. I mean,
No.
they kind of
Yeah.
wanted to make it look realistic as possible, but there's not a ton of detail. And I was a little worried about like how much CGI they were going to be using in this, and it doesn't seem like they used a ton. It seemed
Yeah.
like they tried to use a little bit more practical effects than normal, or
I
at
think
least
just
kind of
Man
like
Thing.
yeah, maybe just Man Thing and some of the blood and stuff.
Yeah,
And maybe,
yeah,
yeah, like it blends pretty well. It doesn't look
yeah.
like there's too many CGI moments in this one, which I
I
liked.
think the black and white helps hide that too. Like, you
True.
can't tell things if it's black and white. You're like, okay.
Yeah, because I feel like that's one of the complaints about like Marvel movies is it seems like they're just actors standing in front of a green screen most of the time.
And they are.
And they
I mean,
are.
to be fair, yeah.
Yeah, so it seemed like this one they were actually kind of on sets, or if they weren't, they fooled me because
Yeah.
it seemed like they were on actual sets for the most part. But then you get into pretty much the game. You just have like these hunters walking around this huge maze. If they run into each other, I guess they're supposed to kill each other,
Which
or
wasn't I didn't think was, told very well. I was like, "Why are they fighting all of a sudden? I thought they were
yeah,
half of this monster." But then Marissa's like, "Well, they don't want the other people to get the monster." I was like, "Oh, okay, fair enough, I
yeah,
guess."
where
Yeah.
it made it seem like they were just going out to hunt the monster, and then whoever survives against the monster wins. But yeah, they didn't really say like, "Oh, you're out to kill each other as well." But I guess it's a
Exactly.
competition. But yeah, the first people that meet is Jack and Elsa, and Jack's like, I'm just cool with just not pretending. Just pretend we didn't see each other. Just move it along."
Just keep going.
And they immediately like bump into the big dude with the axe, and that dude just doesn't. And he just doesn't want to fight at all. This Jack dude just pieces out. He
Yeah,
immediately
he
takes
runs.
off. And Elsa, you get to kind of see what she's made of. She's got some moves, man. She's holding her own against this dude. Straight up
Whooping
takes his
ass.
axe in pieces.
Not for long though, 'cause she runs right into that other guy, like, almost
Yeah, the dude
instantly.
with like the crossbows
Yeah.
on his arms. And
That's the fight I liked. I liked the fight with the crossbow guy. I thought that was cool.
yeah, I thought that was a really cool fight scene as well.
Well
And
choreographed.
well choreographed, lots of blood. Like she immediately cuts his arm off, like straight from the get go, because his
Yeah.
arm comes through and tries to shoot her, and she just lops his arm off. And I was very surprised on how far they went with like just the violence and the gore and everything within this movie. Because
Mhm.
as far as like the old monster classics, there's really not much blood at all, really, within
Mm-mm.
like
Yeah.
the Universal monsters. You really got that with like the Hammer horror in like the 60s and 70s with like the British stuff. But man, they really went all out with this. And I saw like an interview with the director who's like, I didn't really know. We just kind of went out, and I was surprised about how much they let us get away with. And they
I
said that
mean,
the black and white really helped that, or else they wouldn't have been able to get away with that kind of stuff.
that I'm saying even Marvel isn't like, it's not violent. You like, not that kind of violent, like,
Yeah.
it's fighting and stuff. Even like less even the blood, the scene where she fights the guy, the axe guy comes in right after,
Hmm.
and she's like holding him as he's bleeding from the throat, and she's like laying in that bush, and like,
Oh yeah.
that's a pretty gruesome scene. Like, he's like whimpering, and she's like holding him silent. And I'm like, Jesus,
Yeah.
like, that's some shit right there.
Yeah, because she stabbed him like right through the throat.
Yeah, he gets like a bolt like right here.
Yeah, and it shows everything too, and I was very surprised about that, and especially some of the other stuff we're gonna get to. But I
Mhm.
like, all right, this is just kind of setting the tone at this point. Like, okay, what other crazy shit are we gonna be seeing throughout this whole thing? Yeah, and then get you introduced to the monster itself, which is Man Thing, but he actually has a name. They call him Ted. Just of course they're gonna give this just his huge monster just a lovable name, and he doesn't
Yeah.
talk much. He's kind of like a group character in a way, just like a lovable antagonist, but he not antagonist, but protagonist, I
Yeah,
guess.
kind of, I guess. I mean, he doesn't he's not
He's
the nicest either.
misunderstood.
Yeah, he's not the nicest either in the whole movie,
When he has to be. I mean, for good reason. People are trying to kill him. He has to handle himself, you know?
for sure.
But you really get to see why Jack is here and why he's been kind of a little weird so far, because he immediately runs into him and he's like, Ted, hey, how you doing? I'm here to
How you
rescue
doing?
you. And at that point you're like, okay, this just took a whole left turn. I was not expecting it to go this route at all, because Ted immediately turns into a character you like now. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
it's Ted. You want him to survive. You don't want him to get hunted. That's pretty much the story of why Jack's there. You don't really know he's a werewolf at this point, but he's there just to kind of help out Man-Thing get the hell out of there. You don't really go into why he's there or how he got trapped, but that
Yeah.
may be a story for another time. Who knows?
It just seems like they have a bond because he does say like, "Oh, I'm always saving you,"
Yeah.
you know. So it seems like they've been doing this for a while.
Jack runs into Elsa again. They're in like that little crypt because Jack is getting attacked. He runs into the little crypt and she's already just hanging out there. And he like goes to shut the door and she's like, no, don't shut it. And then they just locked into this tomb. He's kind of just telling her his backstory. She's telling him her backstory. You know how it is. And then they decide to help each other because he kind of says like, I'm not even here for the Bloodstone. You are. We can help each other out. Yeah, you can keep it. I just want to get my boy out of here. She suddenly remembers about like her aunt's crypt, and they said that like she would always come back after she's dead to take what's hers or whatever. I forget what the exact explanation was. But they always kept like keys in there so she can get out of the crypt if she ever needed to, if her body woke up. So she like busts into her like tomb and like steals a medallion out of there, throwing like her head and like her arm and stuff.
Me and Marissa, who I did get to watch this with me, she's like, why would that crypt even lock? Like, why would they put a lock? And I was like, well, why would they put a door handle on the other side of the crypt? You know, it's got full of dead people. and then when they got the key, she's like, why would they put a keyhole on the other side of the crypt? And I was like, all right, you got me. I don't know.
That's how they had to get out of there. And immediately I was like, he's gonna have to turn into a werewolf to get the hell out of here. But that wasn't the case.
Yeah, I do like right at the end when they're escaping. He's like, if you run into it, call it Ted. And she's like,
treat it like an old friend you haven't seen in a while.
And she's like, okay.
And sure enough, like almost immediately she runs into the Man-Thing.
After he grabs that guy, though, this is cool. I don't know what he's doing to people, but he's like grabbing them and like melting them or disintegrate. Like they turn into light and they just disintegrate. And I'm just like, holy shit. What's going on?
I'm not going to claim I know a lot about the Man-Thing or anybody else in this universe, so I don't have any clue what his powers are other than disintegrating people at this moment. Jack has like this little like detonator and bomb, and he's just trying to find it. And I like that little scene where he's like trying to stick it on the wall and it's not sticking, and he's like throwing it at it. And he's like, finally, he's like, screw it. And he just like sits it on like the little ledge.
Like the crack in there. Yeah.
But the whole time, like, Man-Thing's fighting to get out. People were shooting at him. David Bowie's hunting him and everything. Elsa's fighting. And, like, as they, like, the wall blows up, Man-Thing runs out to escape, and she, like, shoots, like, a grappling hook. Or, like, the crossbow. That's what it was. Like, that little wrist crossbow she stole from the other dude. Great shot. She just rips the Bloodstone right off. And, like, they're saying, like, the Bloodstone, like, lowers the power of the monsters or something. It weakens them, but it also makes them angry. Whereas, like,
it repels them, apparently?
Yeah, it repels monsters, but, like, I don't know how it worked when it's attached to them other than just weakening them. Yeah. Because Ted didn't seem that weak. He was out here just obliterating people and running through walls. So what's he like without that thing attached to him? That's what I want to know.
Fun to see.
Yeah, and she pulls the Bloodstone off of him. And you would think that as a monster or a dude that's been a werewolf for all these years, you think you would know about the Bloodstone. Why would you go to try to touch it or grab it at that point? Man. Especially if you're trying to, be incognito. You're not trying to let everybody else know you're a monster. Why would you go to try to touch this thing?
And it seems like he's been doing this for a while, so he would know what it is, you know.
Exactly. You're there. Like, and he just goes and touches it, and it just blows him straight back and knocks him out pretty much. Just gives him up. At that point, everybody knows he's a monster. Like, it's not going to shoot you backwards if you weren't a monster. They get captured. They come in with their little electric cattle prods, and they're prodding him and Elsa. The lady already hates Elsa at this point, and to kind of team up with this other dude and kind of cheat, I guess, the hunt. She's being punished as well. They lock them both into a cage together. I like the kind of the setup they have at this little room that they have with this huge like dome-like cage,
like a bird cage.
Yeah, with all these machines around them. Looks like kind of Frankenstein's lab around them a little bit. And their whole plan is, because he's like, oh, you don't have to be scared. Like, she's scared of him, like in the kind of hiding away. She's like, stay away from me. I don't want to be near you. He's like, oh, I'm fine. Like, the full moon doesn't come for like another 3 days. We're fine. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to hurt you. She's like, well, you don't get it. Like, the Bloodstone can turn you if it wants you, and like immediately. So I guess he doesn't know too much about the Bloodstone if he didn't know that.
Or yeah, doesn't think about it because he seems like he's like, okay, I got a plan now,
His plan, because I guess he has been a werewolf for a while. He said his works once before. He just starts sniffing all over her to kind of get her scent familiar with himself. So if he does turn, he doesn't
Yeah.
see her as a threat, really.
He's
And
like,
it's
look
kind
me
of
in the
smart.
eyes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I like I it comes back later, obviously, but I did like that scene. I was like, all right, that's a cool scene.
The evil lady, they come in like their cult robes and their masks and everything.
Looking
uh
crazy.
I wasn't sure how they were going to do the transformation in this movie, and I actually really dug how they did it with like her kind of cowering in fear with like the lightning, the electric kind of glowing off of the wall, and you see his shadow kind of just kind of growing and turning and behind her and everything. I loved kind of the artistic way that they went about it.
I think this is one of my first nitpicks of the film, and not a nitpick. I 100% agree with you, and it goes back to that classic horror because you don't see that stuff very often.
Hmm.
Like in classic horror, you didn't see the transformation; it was always off screen stuff like that. So I get why they did it, but man, werewolf movies need transformation scenes. Like that's like one of the best parts of werewolf movies, right? Like
Yeah.
modern werewolf movies need transformation scenes. And I'm just like I was a little disappointed that Marvel has all this money and they couldn't give us like a real good werewolf transformation scene.
Yeah,
But
my guess
I
is they
do
didn't want to
agree with
make
you.
it like too
Too horrifying.
grotesque or
Yeah.
gory or anything like that.
But I do agree with
Yeah.
you. It was shot fantastically. Like what they were substituted it with was fantastic.
Yeah, they do a great way of building the tension in that scene, because you don't really know what it's gonna look like. Even in the trailers, they don't really show you what the werewolf looks like at all. So it does a great way of building that tension, especially with the music kind of crescendoing as it's happening, and her kind of cowering, and the shadows just getting bigger and everything. I just really liked how they did that. Like you mentioned, like I watched the original Werewolf Wolfman this morning. All that was just like a little time lapse as it's
Mhm.
sitting on like his feet or on his face. It's just like these old like 40s time lapses of like the makeup slowly being put on him. Yeah,
Yeah.
just slowly happening. It doesn't look very great.
Yeah.
I watched the original like Werewolf in London from like the 40s the other last week, and I like the way they did that one because as the dude's walking, there's like a couple pillars in this mansion, and each pillar that he passes, it goes to a different phase of the werewolf. So he passes one, he has a little bit of hair on him. After he passes through the next one, his face is a little bit more deformed, and then after he passes the third one, he's like fully the werewolf. And I like kind of the little like how they did
Yeah.
that in a way.
See, I'm a werewolf guy. Like I'm American Werewolf in London.
You want
Show
to
me it.
see like the skin
Yeah,
stretching and the face.
Ginger Snap. I love in Ginger Snap when her like she's like stretching out of her thing. I love that.
Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah, it was awesome. And she's staring at him, and I love like this whole scene as he's breaking out and fighting. They always kind of keep shadows on the werewolf, and I love like the glowing eyes that they give him, like through the
Yeah.
shadows. I just love that look and how he's like kind of bulky and everything. It makes him look kind of like a superhero, like kind of like a Hulk a little bit. But he has the hair and the face and everything. He looks like a wolf man.
So this is my biggest nitpick of the film
Okay.
is that I don't like the look of the
Oh,
werewolf.
you don't?
I don't like the flat human face. I wish it was more dog-like.
Yeah.
When me and Marissa were talking about it, she was saying, she's like, well, they wanted it to look like the old classic Wolfman.
Yeah, it does.
Totally with it. But then like you put Man Thing in it who doesn't look like any classic. Like Man Thing looks like a
It
CGI,
looks like Cthulhu a little bit,
yeah, like a
very
modern.
Lovecraftian.
So I don't know. That would have been the only thing I'd have changed is I'd have gave him a much cooler look. I feel
Yeah.
like if we use him again, say in the Blade movie, The Moon Knight, he's not gonna look cool enough to like stand beside them. He looked cool for this movie,
I feel you. Yeah.
but I don't know, like you put Moon Knight, who has an awesome character design, and then this like 50s looking werewolf. I'm just like, I don't know, man. I feel like they could got him wolfier.
How's it gonna look in color? Like if they
Ye-
have to do it in color, yeah,
exactly. You know,
and
you
not
can't
hidden in
always do it in black.
shadows all the time.
Yeah, you can't always do it in black and white. So
Yeah,
that
I
that's
definitely
my
agree
one
with you.
nitpick.
But you get this badass scene of him
It's a cool
busting out the
scene.
top
Yep.
of that cage, and he's kind of disappeared, like nobody can find him. And I had to rewind it back just to see if he was there the whole time because like the camera kind of pans out and he jumps from like this little like ledge, this like pillar where like this gargoyle or statue was, and just immediately starts ripping people's throats and like slaughtering people. But he is like I had to rewind it, but you can sure enough see like the little outline with his glowing eyes just sitting up there in the background. It was really cool. But yeah, he's just murking people. He knows how to fight. He's just ripping people apart, just slicing. Blood's flying everywhere. I was very surprised with the amount of gore and blood in these fight scenes. Elsa also breaks out, and she starts slaughtering people as well. So it's just one big fight.
She had a cool fight with Marilyn Manson. Again, I'm gonna call him Marilyn Manson, but she had a cool fight with Marilyn Manson. I thought that was a cool scene.
Yeah, and she like sticks like that blade straight down through Marilyn Manson's forehead.
Yeah, just like in deep too. Yeah. It's like real deep. I'm like, oh, this chick's strong.
And they showed it too. Like I think she like sliced her like across the chest at first, and then put it like right in her head too.
Yeah, and then like lays her down. It's not like a quick cutaway. Like you see her hit her, and then you see her kind of like pull her down like with the sword and like lay her there.
Yeah,
and I was like, Jesus.
The other hunter gets killed there as well at that one point. Kind of similar to Werewolf in London a little bit. He gets trapped in that alleyway. He gets kind of trapped in that little hallway and can't go anywhere. He's still murdering people. The door is slow. I like that scene where like the door is slowly going down, cutting off all the light and what you can see as he's just slowly killing everybody.
This reminded me of Star Wars, though.
That hallway scene
with Darth Vader, and then even right after this, he gets trapped in the thing, and then the lady comes and she starts shocking him with the power of the stone. I was like, oh, now she's the Emperor. Like this whole chunk reminded me of Star Wars. I didn't even think
about that. Yeah. But yeah, she comes in with like the Bloodstone and is just kind of holding him there with the power of the stone and just slowly killing him, I guess. But of course, his buddy has to come in and save the day. Man Thing comes back and just disintegrates her.
Melts this bitch too.
Just nothing. I wish we would have saw a little bit more from him other than just that one move. I would have like picked someone up and rip him in half or do something crazy. I don't know. But that's like his go-to is just disintegrating people.
But this one's even more gory because her like head falls and it's all like sunken in and stuff. She's just like, I mean, she's not bone, but she's like all a husk basically.
Yeah, I thought she was gonna get her arm tore off originally. Like whenever she's like messing with the werewolf when he's still in that cage, and he like pulls her into that cage, and her face. I thought he was gonna rip her arm off or something.
Me too. But, or I thought she was maybe gonna start pulling her through. Like
yeah, and her like face was gonna get squished. I thought that was gonna happen, but no, he just kind of lets her go and she falls back. But I was like, man, they should have committed. Like have her rip her arm off at that point or something. They could have still had her do that thing at the end.
Exactly. The movie could have stayed the same, just one less arm.
Yeah, like that would have set the tone before he breaks out and starts murdering everybody. But maybe they did do that, and maybe that was a little too far. Maybe that was some stuff they had to cut a little
Disney
bit.
was like, no.
Like, all right, we're already letting you kind of slide by with some of this other stuff. That's a little too far.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse said no.
Yeah, he's like, nope, you can't do that.
Nope.
But yeah, Elsa's kind of slowly going in to get the Bloodstone there. Kind of a jump scare. You kind of see it happening. Like, it's going to happen. He's sitting there weak, and she's kind of slowly inching her way towards him, and he pounces on her. And like just like you mentioned before, he's like, she stares into his eyes. And at that point, he just leaves her alone. He just pieces out, bolts out the door, finds the other exit, and leaves. Ted's just kind of sitting there like, peace. Yeah, peace. And she's like, oh, he went that way. Yeah. Okay, bye. And this is probably maybe my other nitpick is like, you didn't have color this whole time. So like, why go back into color at this point? It fades into color, into that camping scene where it's just with the next morning. It does it first on
Elsa. It does it first on Elsa because the butler's like, "Oh, I'm here to serve you, ma'am."
Yeah, he's like, "Hey man, I was just doing my job. I was doing what I was told.
Clean this shit up." And she's like, "Clean all these bodies up." And she's like sitting there. Yeah, and it like pans, which I thought the pan on her was cool. I think I know why they made it color though, because you're right. You get into the camping scene. I think they are going to bring this into the Marvel Cinematic Universe eventually, and they were like, we have to show them color because we're going to do it eventually,
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a shock for everybody. Like when he's in Moon Knight or wherever they're going to be, they're like, okay, that's what Man-Thing looks like in color.
True, and maybe that's why that scene was there. Because otherwise, I was like, this movie didn't really need this scene at the very end. I feel like it could have ended with just that shot of Elsa chilling there with the Bloodstone with all the bodies around her.
I agree. They could have saved that for an after credit scene, which there was none, which is unlike Marvel. It could have been an after credit scene.
Because as anybody knows that has watched like the Universal monster movies, they end very abruptly. 90% of the time, like when something it just kind of ends. Like there's no like third like epilogue to these movies. Like when the monster is killed or done away with, it just ends. And that's what I kind of expected to happen there is Elsa just sits down and then it just Werewolf by Night and then the cast or whatever. But no, it doesn't. But it was okay. I mean, it was kind of comic relief there that them joking around with each other. Like you can tell Jack can understand
thing, and
Ted, what he's saying or whatever.
it's a setup. I mean, Marvel can't help themselves.
Yeah.
They set everything for the future.
Yeah, I mean, I would be cool with seeing a series or a movie with them two just traveling around together or getting into adventures and stuff, like him as a werewolf and this just man thing.
Well, the whole time I'm watching, I know Blade got delayed, but I'm like,
Yeah.
Blade would fit perfectly in this
Oh yeah.
little montage of people, you know? Like Blade would have been awesome. Even the guy who was in there, I was like, oh, I thought for a second he was Blade, and I was like, oh no, that's not the
Oh,
actor who's
okay.
playing Blade. But I
Yeah.
was like, oh, that guy, and I was like, it's not Blade. But
Yeah, because that would be a part of a Blade that we haven't seen really, is like
yeah,
werewolves and that the other type of monsters and ghouls that are out there. So that would have been really
which
cool.
which is what they need to do with Blade. Don't make him just. I mean, I know he is a vampire hunter, but obviously he's going to be in the bigger, grander scheme of
Yeah.
things. So he's got to hunt this stuff too, you know.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'd like to see it in Blade.
Yeah, and one of the other things we didn't mention is like because we talked about the style and everything of the movie and the black and white. The part we didn't mention is the bloodstone itself is just straight red and I
Yeah,
love it.
color.
Like every time you see it, it's just very shiny, and I just love that the red against the black and white. It works very well.
It's like Sin City, like when you see Goldie and stuff. Like it is a good shot.
But yeah, that's where the movie pretty much ends. There is with the Jack and Ted camping scene. There, you get a little bit of comic relief before it goes into the credits. I really enjoyed this movie. It flew by like that. I think it was for a first time director. He did a very good job with it, especially kind of mirroring and going off of drawing inspiration from those old classics. I think they did a bang up job with it.
I'm with you, man. I loved it. I knew I was gonna love it because I do like that classic monster stuff. Even more surprising, I forced Marissa to watch it. She hates black and white stuff. She loved it. She was like, "This was great. I loved this," and I was like, "Yeah, it was great." So I'm with it. I loved the film for what it was. I mean, it was a short. It was a short special. I loved it. I mean, it's gonna be hard to rank it. You know, miss it, skip it, buy it.
Yeah. I definitely recommend watching it though. It's definitely worth the watch, especially during like it's October here, it's spooky time. Definitely a nice little short movie to put on at night.
Yeah, Halloween spirit.
Yeah.
If this came out in like and I'm gonna give my reviewer. If this came out in because I know the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas specials coming. Like if this came out with like 2 other half-hour 50-minute specials, I would say buy it. I think it was good enough to put on every Halloween.
Yeah.
I think it's cool, and I'm a big Marvel fan, so it helps me.
But yeah, hopefully they continue to do stuff like this, because this is something that like this really impressed me out of like Marvel and Disney as of yet, because they've been kind of settling into their formulas as of late. So it's something it's cool to see them branch out and do something like this and have it be a success. And hopefully they continue to do stuff like this going forward. Maybe have something like this every October. Have some cool like black and white little feature that you release.
Or pay homage to pay homage to the Hammer films next time.
Yeah,
you know?
do something.
Like like there's tons of like horror genres that are beloved that like, and while Disney like I hate them because they just own everything, like they do really make good films when they put their mind to it, you know. Like they got it down to a lock. They got it down to a science.
It seemed like after Doctor Strange 2 with like Sam Raimi coming and directed and introducing his, brand of it's not like horror per se.
There is some horror in that.
There is some horror in it, and it's very creepy. And I feel like the positive reception out of that is kind of maybe what helped this in a way, and helped Disney kind of get out of their comfort zone. Like, okay, maybe we can do some spooky kind of horror type things now, and maybe go out and take some chances, because they've been playing it pretty safe lately. So I like the idea of Disney, not even just with like Werewolf by Night and horror stuff, just go out and do something crazy, like take some chances. Why not? You got all the money in the world, do it.
Do it. I mean, and coming from a parent who, I mean, I know, like, I want my kid to watch stuff like this, you know, like, I want him to be able to grow up with stuff like this, that, like, he's not going to go back and watch the old Hammer films. Or not that I think or not Hammer, the old Universal monster films. Like, that, it's just, at this point, it's way beyond him. It's not paced fast enough. Like, and I get it. Even when I watch them sometimes, I'm like, like this is a long movie. Like, this is a long, boring movie. Like, I get it. So like it's cool to see a resurgence of it if that happens.
Sure, and in a day that we don't get too many like introductory kind of horror movies for kids and stuff, I feel like this fits in right well. I mean, there is some blood and gore and some dismemberment a little bit, but I wouldn't say it's anything too crazy. But I think it's a very good like introductory type horror movie for kids.
For sure, and it's quick. It doesn't linger too long. Like that your kids would be that scared of it. It doesn't linger.
Yeah, exactly.
Quickly, we didn't brush on it. The sound design's awesome in this
Oh
too.
yeah.
They use silent moments like old black and white movies very well. There are scenes that are almost completely quiet, and I'm just like, I like that. So
Yeah.
sound design.
And when they do have the music, it's very kind of the old, kind of the classic, like
Orcs.
orchestral. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I love that kind of stuff, especially kind of it draws the inspiration from the old movies, like we keep saying. I thought they were gonna do it like an old horror, like the old school, like the handmade sets. I thought they were gonna have like all the old cool like practical type stuff. But it definitely was way more modernized than I thought it was gonna be. Is what,
Dude,
what I'm trying to say.
I think it would cost more money to make a movie like an old movie than it would to just be a new movie. Like, imagine
I
how
can
much money
see
it would,
that. Yeah.
it would cost them so much money to hand paint sets and shit, and they'd never use it again. They'd be
We
like,
don't
no,
have the manpower to do that.
yeah, we're not doing that shit. Put it on a green screen.
That was the original pitch. Is like, we're gonna do it exactly like an old like 30s, 40s movies. Like, we don't got the time or the money to do that.
Yeah,
Just
no.
go out on the stage. Like, we'll build you one set, and you got to use it. Use it
Here's
sparingly.
a chair. You can use this office chair. That's it.
Where can everybody find you, Alex?
Always on Tap That. You can find me and my beautiful smiling face on Tap That Reviews.
Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. As always, make sure to go follow us on Twitter at Cinema Trip Views, and go check us out wherever you get your podcasts. We're pretty much available everywhere, audio only, so check us out and leave us a good review there as well. And as always, we'll see everybody next time.